Hi, it's Dave Williams here from the Management Mastery University, and on this set of training videos I'm going to be sharing about rapport. Now you may well be thinking, Dave, what's rapport? What's so important about rapport? And that would be a valid question, but it's key to everything that we do and achieve in life. At the end of the day, no one is a one-person band. And we all need other people to actually get from where we are now to where we want to get to. And we do that with other people, and the only way that we're going to engage with other people is when we build rapport. But it's not something that's normally spoken about, and yet it is so important to everything that we achieve in life. Now think about it. Maybe you've got a phenomenal partner. Maybe you've got brilliant friends, and maybe you've got wonderful relationships with people that you work with. So if that is the case, even if you've just got one, but hopefully you've got all three, even if that is the case, how have you got those particular relationships? Well, it's all started with rapport. See, what tends to happen, we're all human beings. Well, I'm assuming that we are anyway. So we're all human beings, and what we tend to do as human beings is like people that are what? Like us. And we tend to dislike people that aren't like us. Now, and that may well be they look different, they have different opinions, they have different beliefs, whatever it is. But we're all human beings at the end of the day. And the reality is, once we build rapport, then we can connect with absolutely anybody. Now, I'll also add a little proviso here. Now, I'm sure this is not you, but have you ever met anyone that you totally disliked? Have you? Yeah, I'm sure you have. And look, there's X amount of billion people on the planet. The reality is, there is always going to be someone on the planet that the connection is just not there, for whatever reason. But the vast majority of people, you will be able to connect and you will be able to get synergy. And once you get synergy, once you get to master the likes of rapport, you can basically achieve whatever you want to achieve with whomever you want to achieve. Now, that may well sound like hyperbole, and I don't mean it to. It's just that that's what happens. Because most people go through life, they don't even think about rapport whatsoever. But let me ask you a question. Have you ever been out for a night out, whether it be a pub, restaurant, club, or anything along those lines, and you've seen someone, assuming you were single when I say this, and you've seen someone that you like the look of, you'd like to know a bit more about them, and you'd like to get to know them a bit better. Have you ever had that? Yeah, most people have, because let's be honest, that's how most relationships start, isn't it? So what happened to build that relationship? Well, you may well have gone over and asked them questions, smiled, or cracked a joke, or whatever it is. Well, you think about it. When you strip that back, what is that doing? It's building rapport. You see, that's how important rapport is. And yet, when it comes to management, we tend to not discuss it, not think about it, totally ignore it, whatever. And yet, it's so important. And you see, the reason why I say that is because when you've got mastery of building rapport, you can dictate, control any particular meeting or whatever it is, any situation that you're in, both professionally and indeed personally. And I don't mean that in a nasty way. Now, I was working with a group of directors a few years ago now. Excuse me. And I was doing this management development training with them. And in all honesty, it was the genesis of what is now the Management Mastery University. And that's how I was working with this team of gentlemen. And it was an interesting comment that the CEO made at that time. I said, I don't believe in management. I believe it's called really manipulation. And I must admit, I was a bit taken aback by that particular comment, I must admit. But then he went on to explain that manipulation, not in a bad way, but in as much as getting someone to do something that they didn't think they wanted to do. And I thought that was great. And when you think about it, virtually everything that we do in management arguably is manipulation. It's just got a nicer title called management. But there's two elements that I'd like to add to that. And the first one is, it's all about intent. So managing someone to improve the situation either for them or the organization. So good intent. The other element is bad intent. And manipulating or managing someone that is going to be detrimental to them, the business, but it's going to be good for this particular individual, the person that's doing the manipulating. And in effect, that's what we're doing as far as management is concerned as well. Yeah, we're managing someone to get someone to actually do something for the benefit potentially of them, hopefully for them. Certainly as far as the business is concerned, hopefully for ourselves. But all of that is in a good way. So it's moving things forward for the right reasons. Not, as I mentioned a bit earlier on, the second element, the negative reason. But when you think about it, it's so much easier to get someone to do something when we're in rapport. Let me throw something at you. Not literally. Yeah. Have you ever been in a situation where you've been with someone and I'll use the example of kids. If you've got kids, yeah, trying to get the kids to tidy the room. Now, that can be a real challenge, can't it? Depending on the age of the children, etc. Because quite often, you know, as a parent, you know, you may well have noticed the room a bit earlier on, and then the child walks in or whatever, and you say, "Hey, Mary," or whatever the child's name is, obviously, yeah, go and tidy your room. There's been no rapport. You've just given an instruction. And Mary's, you know, really enthused about doing it. But the reality is, in that situation, no rapport's been built. It's just been a case of, look, here's an instruction, go do. And when you think about it, how often does that happen in management as well? See someone walking past the office or as you're walking through the workplace or whatever, right, so go and do that. Yeah? And that's one of the reasons why rapport is so important. And yet, like I say, normally it's ignored or at best just taken for granted. So on this particular section, what we're going to be doing today, and obviously it is part of the sections of the Management Mastery University, and I haven't got time to go through absolutely everything here. So in this relatively short video, I'm just going to be touching on the likes of rapport, okay, and giving you some pointers that you can actually use now, be aware of, and then you can actually utilize moving forward as well, okay? So when you think about it, right, like I said, we're human beings, and human beings, we've got the 5 senses, haven't we? Yeah? And maybe you know the 5 senses straight away, and in which case, fantastic. Yeah, if you don't, here's a quick refresher. So we have visual. Okay, so the things that we see in essence, okay? We have auditory. So the things that we hear. We have kinesthetic. Okay, kinesthetic quite often is referred to things that we do, but it's actually more than that. It's also about how we feel and the emotions that we attach to those things. So kinesthetic is quite a broad area, really. Okay, olfactory. Now, You may not be aware of that particular term, that's the official term, but in effect, your sense of smell. That's what that is. And that can be such a powerful one. I'll go through these again in a bit more depth. Okay, and gustatory. Gustatory. Sorry, bit of a misspelling on the bottom there. Yeah, okay. So they're the 5 senses. Right? Now, which one is your preferred? So you've got your visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory. So I'll put that in brackets, smell. So which one is your preferred style? Okay? See, we're human beings, we're different, and we have a preferred style for different situations. So I've shared previously when I've actually done stuff, the fact of how well do you know your teams? Because when you know your teams really, really well, you will get to know in certain circumstances, most circumstances, sometimes all circumstances, what that team member needs at that particular time. So visual, auditory. So the visual obviously is what we see. Now that's in our foveal vision, but also in our peripheral vision as well. So the foveal is basically what you see right in front of you and what you focus. And your peripheral is basically what you see in on the outskirts. So if you're driving a vehicle, as an example, you will normally, well, hopefully, you will normally be focused on what's in front of you, apart from when you glance to look in the rearview mirror and also your side mirrors. And for some of you, yes, those things do exist, okay? But you're also aware of what else is going on because you use your peripheral vision. So you may well notice someone, and let's say a similar vehicle on the other side of the road going past, similar vehicle to what you've got. You're not glancing to focus at it, you're just noticing it through your peripheral vision. And that's what we do as far as visual cues are concerned. Auditory, obviously it's what we hear. Now, that may well be directly, but maybe you're like I am. Now, if we were having this conversation now, I would be fully present with you. So I'd be focusing on you. However, our ears are fantastic, aren't they? They're a bit like satellite dishes. Okay, and they pick up all sorts of different things. Now, thankfully, I haven't got anything else going on here. But I've been in situations where while I've been focusing on the person that I'm talking to, I can also pick up a little bit of the conversation that may well be over here, as an example. See, auditory is phenomenally powerful when we know how to use it right. Kinesthetic, a wonderful one. And that's it, it's one that tends to get boxed into things that we do. Now, I remember, excuse me, being with an organisation some time ago when I was helping them out with some consultancy work. And they were saying as far as their training was concerned, because it was a tangible physical item, it's the classic example when it comes to training there is tell, show, try, do, yeah? And as much as tell them how to do it, show them how to do it, get them to try it while you're giving the supervision and you're there just in case they make any mistakes, and then they should become competent enough to actually move forward. And they were firm believers in this, and personally I agree with that. I think that's terrific. And it's something I learned many years ago as well. But it depends on the situation as well, because sometimes when we're asking people to do things, we don't necessarily have something physical for them to do. And that's where the kinesthetic element comes into it when it's expanded. And that's what I mean as far as the emotions and that are concerned as well, and how people feel about certain circumstances. Look, it's very well, I've got my glasses here, kinesthetically, yeah, okay, they're great because I know that I need to pick them up to put them on so I can actually see what I'm doing. So it's easier when you've got a physical item in many ways. But kinesthetic is such a broad element. So when you are working with your teams, if you give them a feel-good factor as well, then kinesthetically, they're more likely to respond because that helps build rapport. Now, hopefully that makes sense. Okay. Olfactory or your sense of smell. Depending on which environment you're in, really, really powerful. Really, really powerful. Now this alone can build rapport like that. Okay? May well sound a bit weird. Let me explain. Have you ever been into another building or whatever, or possibly looking to buy or rent a new property, and there's an aroma of coffee or freshly made bread there or something along those lines? Have you ever had that? See, what normally happens then, our senses will pick that up first, and that's going to trigger things in our mind. Okay? Sounds weird, I know. But did you know that when you were first being formed in your mum's stomach, your nose grows before basically virtually anything else. So your sense of smell is one of the first senses that gets used when you're an unborn child. So our sense of smell is so powerful. But going back to the likes of the house or whatever, freshly made bread or coffee, why do people do that? Quite simple, because they know it's going to impact your mind, because for most people, not everyone, but for the vast majority of people, boom, the aroma of coffee, freshly made bread gives a good signal. It's a comforting signal. Now, when people feel comfortable, I'll just refer now to the property, okay? When people feel comfortable in a new property, they're more inclined to associate with living there. Weird, isn't it? So an exercise for you, as far as your workplace is concerned, maybe, just maybe, think of things that you can actually have that may well be good triggers that, as far as senses of smell are concerned, that people will pick up. Okay? And then we've got gustatory. Have I spelled that right? No, I don't think I have. Okay, so forgive me if I haven't. Now, you can change people's state and get an immediate rapport when they're eating. You think about it. Most people eat, well, no, I'll reframe that. Everyone eats out of necessity. As a generalization, most people, including myself recently, I hasten to add, actually eat a bit too much. Yeah, I'm guilty of that, especially recently, like I say. But if you can get someone to change state, let's say you're in a sales meeting as an example, okay, and you've potentially got a big contract, and I don't know, I'll say what you've done, you've taken some donuts with you. Now, realistically, if the people that you are presenting to, if they really like donuts and they're having your, whatever brand, I'm not going to say the brand here, but they're really enjoying them, then they're already associated with you. Because apart from anything else, most people don't do anything like that. But secondly, it is a case of what you do and you're changing their state, their emotional state, so they're more inclined to be with you, on your side. So the chances of you potentially getting that particular signature and deal and contract are greatly enhanced. Okay? But it's also the same in our normal workplace environment as well. But just before I go on to that one, you think about it, if you've been on a date, if you've ever been on a date and you've taken someone out for dinner, then realistically, if they've really enjoyed the meal, okay, then it's going to be a great night, As in, you're going to get on really well. I'm not suggesting anything else. I just mean it's going to be a great night. It's going to be a fun night. But like I said, the same applies in work as well. If you've got something, that's why so many people, when they have meetings, they'll put biscuits or donuts or cakes or whatever in the meetings, because they're trying to, they're not necessarily thinking of this consciously, but what they're doing, they're trying to get people engaged, they're trying to get people to the meeting so they will engage. Then it's all about, the likes of the information, the way it's delivered, etc., etc. But that's for some other time. That's not for this particular training. So with all of those, it's knowing which ones, first of all, are right for you. And like I said, it depends on the circumstances. It may well be professionally, you're predominantly visual, as an example. It may well be as far as a home life is concerned. You may well be more kinesthetic and olfactory. I don't know. But the thing is, try. I say try. Now, don't try. When you get to know your teams, find out which ones work in general best for them. And like I say, there are always going to be certain circumstances that there are going to be times that it's not going to be right for them at that particular time. So what you do, when you get to know someone, you know which is the main one that impacts them. So you go to the next one and you try that one instead, because that particular day, at that particular time, that may well be the one that's going to impact them more. Okay? So all of these things are all about building rapport. And you're not going to use all of these all of the time. But if you're communicating with anyone as far as your team is concerned, you will at least be using at least one of these. So if you're using one, fantastic. Try using two. Now, I'm using two already. Trying to bring in, with what I'm doing, I'm also trying to bring in the third as well. So obviously what I'm saying is auditory. Now, when when I'm presenting, I'm quite visual. I'm more a visual person, as you may well have noticed, because I'm high with my gestures in comparison to a lot of people. Not everyone, but a lot of people. Why? Because when I'm actually speaking at events, as an example, then I also use them to emphasize the points that I'm getting over, because quite often it's for a larger audience. But also use kinesthetic as well. Why? Well, two reasons. Well, first of all, the way that I do that, I'm varying my voice. Hopefully you've noticed that. So I may well be a bit more upbeat when I'm trying to get things over. But sometimes I'll actually take the proverbial step back and I'll talk a bit quieter and a bit slower. And again, there's two reasons for that. One, so you're not thinking, hey, this Dave is right in my face all the time or anything along those lines. But secondly, I'm doing it to have greater impact with the words that I'm delivering. But there's another element to that as well. I've asked you 2 or 3 times now which one is your preferred. The reason why I'm doing things like I am visual, if you're a visual person, you will like how I deliver. If you're an auditory, you'll like the way that I'm fluctuating the tone of voice. If you're kinesthetic, you're not really going to like, as in high kinesthetic, you're not going to really like the visual. You'll be okay with the auditory, but the fact that when I slow down and I ask questions, that's going to resonate with predominantly kinesthetic people more. Now, I can't really do too much as far as the olfactory is concerned or the gustatory while we're actually doing this on video, but that's how things work, you see. So like I said, there was 2 things, and I've just covered them both there. The reasons why I'm doing it is to impact more people that are going to be watching this particular video, but also to reach and connect with as many of these people as I can, because obviously I don't know you. Well, I might well know you, but I don't know where you are when you're watching this. But secondly, to potentially, because I can't get any feedback from this, so potentially I'm doing it to connect with as many people as I can. Why? Well, that's how I can't see them, but normally when you're in the work scenario, you've got at least some feedback coming on, haven't you? And you can react to that, or not react, no, adapt to that is a better term. And again, fluctuate. Learn which ones are actually going to be best for you to work with your team members. Because like I said, once you do this, once you master this, you can achieve absolutely anything. And with most organizations that are going through toxic environments, and there's a lot of them, they're no idea as far as this is concerned. They're always predominantly in that, and it's predominantly in tell mode. You do this, you do that, you do the other. If you don't like it, there's the door. And again, fluctuate. Learn which ones are actually going to be best for you to work with your team members. Because like I said, once you do this, once you master this, you can achieve absolutely anything. And with most organizations that are going through toxic environments, and there's a lot of them, they're no idea as far as this is concerned. They're always predominantly in that, and it's predominantly in tell mode. You do this, you do that, you do the other. If you don't like it, there's the door. And that's quite often what happens. And that's why, as far as Management Mastery University is concerned, it's all about giving you and the team the skills to be able to work and manage with anyone, because the vast majority of people have done this blindly. I know I did. When I was in management, I knew nothing about this. Nothing whatsoever. And I've learned when I left frontline management, as in working for an organisation doing a management role, I've learned this since. But what I didn't realise is because I viewed management differently when I was frontline, then I did a lot of this anyway, but without realising that I was doing it, if that makes sense. Okay? So hopefully that's given you quite a few pointers as far as that's concerned. Okay. So that's one element when it comes to building rapport. Now, there are several different elements here. And the next section I'm just going to cover, again, it's all about rapport. And it's how to realistically control any situation. And I'm just going to do an overview with this. All right? Because when you think about it, now, predominantly what I'm going to be referring to when I cover this particular section now is the fact that you're in the same room with this person, okay? And you may well have come across the term before, matching and mirroring. Yeah, matching and mirroring, okay? And it's such a phenomenal thing. And again, when we get to master this, oh, wow. You know, you can take everything to another level, because what you're actually doing here is guiding people to where you want them to be. And as I said earlier on in this particular video, not in a negative way. Okay, because the vast majority of people in this day and age, from my experience anyway, they do need guidance, because they're exposed, like everyone is, if we choose to, they're exposed to so much garbage and drivel that's in the media, etc. People are looking for guidance because there's so much confusion that's been delivered over the last however many years. One of the terms that's been used an awful lot is false news. And there has. And it's been, but to be fair, it's been like that for decades, yeah, if not centuries, to be fair. Because what happens, it's all about opinions, isn't it? Now, if we were here in person having a conversation, we may well have different opinions on certain things. But isn't that healthy? But the drawback that we've got is when people are exposed to the media, and like I say, we all have a choice over that, and the vast majority of people are, it's all negative, 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 and it impacts us. So that's why I say people need guidance, okay, but in a good way. So matching and mirroring, and just get a different colour, okay. In essence, what is matching and mirroring? Well, the clue's in the name, to be perfectly honest. And there are so many elements that we can do to build rapport. And when I say copying, I don't mean literally, if I'll use a gesture for an example here. If someone moves their arm like that, then you go as well. I don't mean it quite like that. But because to do this properly, and I mean properly, you do it elegantly. Okay? Now, one of the first ways to actually build rapport is breathing. Yeah, and guess what? We're all human beings, so we all breathe. Yeah, that's an easy start, isn't it? Breathing is such a subtle one, but it's amazing the impact that you can have when you're getting someone the same wavelength as someone when you breathe the same way as what they do. And when I say that, I don't mean the fact that just breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth, breathe in through, I don't mean it like that. But you're actually doing it at the same level as they are. because this is such a subtle way to actually build rapport. And wow, when I learned this and then applied it as well, wow, what impact that made. And there is now very few people that I meet that I just don't get on with. Very, very few people. There's the odd one, obviously, but as I said at the beginning, we're all human beings, okay? And let's face it, we all have not so good days, don't we? And realistically, if it was not so good day for the other person or whatever, then hey, so be it. No worries. But let's say breathing is so subtle. So again, remember, we all like people that are like ourselves. So if you're meeting someone for the first time, if you subtly notice their breathing pattern, then if you adapt the same breathing pattern, then unconsciously, they're going to start thinking, hey, this person's like me. And you're going to build rapport. Okay? It's such a simple one. I've touched on them already, so I'll leave gestures for the moment. So, facial expressions. Sorry, I had to squeeze that in a bit then. Yeah, facial expressions. Again, it's such a simple one, but such a big one. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever been walking down the high street and you've smiled at someone? What normally happens? They'll either smile back or think that you're a freak, okay? That's the reality. Now, the people in the second category that may possibly think that you're a freak, it's just because they're in a just totally different state at that particular moment in time. So they're not literally thinking that you're a freak, and hopefully they're not ringing the police or anything. No, seriously. See, so for the former category, for the vast majority of people, if they see someone smile at them, they normally what? Smile back, don't they? Yes? And straight away, you've built rapport. At that particular time, you have immediate rapport because someone's reacted to something that you're doing. And facial expressions are massive. Absolutely massive. And you can manage so many different situations by just changing your facial expressions. Did you realise it takes more facial muscles to frown than what it does to smile? And yet, if you're anything like my experience, most of the time that you're walking around, you see more people frowning than you do smiling. Okay, they may well be burning more calories, so they may well be using that to lose some weight or something, I don't know. But doesn't smiling help people feel an awful lot better? Yeah. So let me ask you a question. Do you smile enough? Yeah, it may well seem as a ridiculous question, but most of us don't. Yeah, we've got so many things to be grateful for, but we don't focus on them. See, when we're focusing on stuff that we are grateful for, when we do it from the right place, it comes from the emotion of love. And when we come from the emotion of love, it helps us smile. So facial expressions are wonderful. So what facial expressions do you use apart from smiling? And the reason why I say that is, being perfectly honest, you're probably not going to be aware. But if there was 12 of us in a room and let's say that you knew everyone else really well, I would probably need to ask them what your facial expressions were. And they'd probably share. Because when we're doing it ourselves, we don't normally notice, let's be honest. But when you do notice something and you're being subtle with it, facial expressions can actually change virtually any situations like that. And when I work with personal clients, it's the key is to build rapport right at the very beginning, because quite often a lot of the subjects that I help clients with are very, very, very personal. And realistically, I think it's fair to say, with every particular client now, we've ended up, it doesn't matter how severe it's been, we've ended up having a laugh and a joke as well. And one of those simple reasons is because I build rapport, like I say, and facial expressions is a big one. I use these an awful lot when I'm with clients, to empathize with them, to actually move them forward, to change their state, to change their focus, loads of different things. And that's why facial expressions are so key. And because I've built rapport, I can ask my personal clients absolutely anything. And I have asked them all sorts of different things. Why? Because it just felt right. But I've used everything I've shared with you so far, I've used all of these things in different stages when I'm actually with either personal clients or when I'm working with organizations. Why? Because it works and I need people to get the impact and make the right decisions for them. Whether it be a training course, whether it be changing their life, whether it be a conference, whatever it is, I need people to digest the information and then feel good enough to then go and apply it. That way it's going to better their lives, better the people around them, and if it's in a business environment, potentially increase and enhance the organization as well. Okay? So facial expressions, it's a big one. Yeah, so let's say, do you smile enough? Go on, practice now. No one is watching and I can't see you, so practice. Okay? But again, with some of the other facial expressions that you have, some people, if you ever saw the original Star Trek series, and I hadn't planned on mentioning this bit, I must admit, but Spock, as an example, I can't do this, so I'm not going to try and demonstrate it. But he used to raise his eyebrow, didn't he? If you remember the original series. If you don't, then I'm sure there's things that have been repeated on TV, or indeed you can see sketches or scenes or whatever on YouTube or whatever. And yes, there are other media platforms available. Yes, okay. But there are certain things. So again, if you notice that someone does a particular expression, let's say raising the eyebrow as an example. Now, if you can do that, then, wow, boom, rapport straight away. Okay, and like I say, these are the subtleties that can make a massive difference in any situation that you're in. Okay? Now, I've mentioned them twice already. Gestures, real big one. I've said already when we're talking about the other bit, as far as the 5 senses are concerned, I'm visual, so I use my hands an awful lot anyway. So if you were with me, you would be quite easy to mirror myself because I do so many different things. The subtle gestures are the ones that can have a massive impact. Now, I'm not going to go through loads of different things here because if we were together, as an example, I would expand on this. And then if you got any queries, I could elaborate on that. So there's certain things I'm not going to share at the moment. Not that I don't want you to know it. It's just trying to get it over on video may well be a bit challenging. I don't want it to get misrepresented, okay? But gestures, big one. Virtually everyone on the planet gestures when they talk. They do. Pregnant pause there for the simple reason to get the impact of the statement over. Because most people don't even think about what gestures they have. And the thing is, when people do have gestures, like I said, I would be quite easy to mirror. Some people are an awful lot more subtle, but we all have gestures. And when you can mirror these gestures, then the rapport building is done so subtly and so quickly, okay? Now, with all of those, they are all important. You don't need to use them all. And then it comes to how to use them. That is the key, how to use them. So what I'm going to share now is called elegantly bring them in. Because I used the example of gesture a bit earlier on. If I did that, then you wouldn't do that straight away. You wouldn't. You would wait for a second or two and then maybe do that. It's a saying, not necessarily with the breathing, because obviously you need to breathe unless you have gills fitted at birth, but you need to breathe. But so not necessarily with your breathing, but with the other bits and pieces, your facial expressions or whatever. A little bit of time to go from them doing the expression or the gesture to you then following up. So as an example, sitting down, there are so many people that cross their legs when they sit down. So if someone that you're looking to build rapport with sat down right in front of you and straight away they just sat down and crossed their right leg over their left, as an example, would you immediately cross your right leg over your left? No, because that's too obvious then, okay? You would wait for a few seconds and then you may well start talking about something different, and then you would do your right leg over your left. And it's the same with the gestures. If they keep on doing this as an example, first one that comes to mind, okay, then you wouldn't do that immediately. You would do that a little bit better, or indeed when you're talking, because again, unconsciously, the person that you're with or the people that you're with would then pick up on that and think, hey, you're like me. Okay? So you would, don't get me wrong, you wouldn't leave it half an hour before you then implemented one of these. But another one as well is sayings. So if someone keeps on saying, for argument's sake, one of mine, at the end of the day, this is going to happen. At the end of the day, the sun is going to shine no matter what happens. It's just sometimes we don't see it. At the end of the day, we're actually going to leave tonight, etc., etc. If they use that sort of terminology on a regular basis, when you start communicating with them, use it. Okay? So you may well be talking about something totally different. And I don't know, let's just say you're telling a story. Once upon a time, Jack and Jill went up the hill, blah, 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 blah. And at the end of the day, they came down again. Okay, you may just throw that particular term, the term that they normally use, into the conversation some way through, but that's going to resonate with them. Now, all of these things will start to get them to like, know, and trust you. You don't need to use them all. You can use some of them. You can use them all as well if you wish. Obviously, it depends on the situation that you're in. And studies have shown that if, as an example, let's just say that you were out with someone that you hadn't met before and you were both sat at a table and you were both just sat there having a drink. You may not even converse with this particular individual, okay? So let's just say every few seconds that they would actually pick up their drink, pardon me, in their left hand, drink it, then put it down, and then a second or two later you would actually do it, and then follow, and then wait for them to do it again, and then you did it a bit after that again. Within 5 to 10 minutes, depends on the person, depends on the situation, depends on the circumstances, within about 5 to 10 minutes, if all of a sudden you took your drink using your right hand instead of mirroring them with their left, under most circumstances, they would suddenly pick up their drink with their right hand and start to mirror you. Okay? And that is the impact that we can have with matching and mirroring. It's all about building a rapport. None of this is actually being shared with you in the negative manipulation way. It's all about giving you the impact to be the wonderful, unique person that you are and to actually impact other people, whether it be your teams or whatever. And it's the subtleties that can make massive differences. Okay? So I hope you've got value from this, and I look forward to catching up with you again shortly with another set of training videos that we'll actually do as far as Management Mastery University is concerned. And obviously, if you feel there's anything I can help you or your organisation with, then by all means reach out to me. I'm at dave@davewilliamscoaching.com or indeed at www.managementmasteryuniversity.com. Okay? But let's say, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, keep on being special, and I look forward to catching up with you soon. All right. Take care now. Bye.